Hello friends, my name is Angela and I'm coming to you from Western Australia where I just sit here and talk with you about books. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have a few things I wanted to chat with you about today, so we're going to have a good old bookish chat just to share with you things on my mind, things I'm doing, and I'm also going to share with you my current reads. And I got a little carried away at a secondhand bookstore recently over the weekend, and I'm going to share with you the books that I bought there. So first of all, thank you so much for your comments on my last video, which was a vlog, which was totally off the cuff. I didn't know what was going to happen, and I went with it, and you came with me, and I'm very thankful for that. Thank you for your comments about the office and the wallpaper we have in there. It is beautiful. It's been there for about 13 years. We replaced a black wallpaper with that when we moved in, but I'm at the point where I think I want to change it to something different. It's a very bright room, and I think it could stand having a darker wallpaper, something a bit more solid. But anyway, thank you for those comments. Thank you also for your comments about my haircut. It was a big step, and I'm glad I did it. It feels fresh for spring. Still struggling figuring out how to style it, so that'll come. You all mentioned that I should just continue to talk about the season I am in and just to go with the flow, because it is nice to escape where you are, and I totally get that. There's a YouTuber I follow who lives in in Alaska. There's nothing I love more than watching their videos of them in the snow and struggling with that lifestyle while I am in a 40-degree summer here in Australia. So I completely understand that. So I'm just going to continue. I'm going to continue with the season I'm in. First of all, this spring I've decided I want to be a tea drinker. And I do drink tea occasionally, but I want to drink it more, and I want to perhaps expand my horizons more. There's so many more options out there than just black tea, which is what I normally go for, or a chamomile or a peppermint. That's what I tend to stick with. I'm drinking a tea which is from T2, which I'm not sure if they're in the UK as well as Australia and New Zealand, but it's a tea company, and they have a huge selection of black teas, herbal teas, green teas. And this one is called The Dreamer, and it's actually supposed to be taken in the evening. It's like something that would just relax you a little bit. It's got those soothing qualities. And it has rose hip, lemon balm, lemon verbena, rose petals, orange peel, sunflower petals, calendula petals, hops, valerian, cornflower petals. It sounded lovely when I saw it, and I thought this would be a nice little pickup in the afternoon. Maybe if I've been having a little bit of a stressful morning and I just need something just to chill out a little bit. And I try not to have caffeine after midday. I find it really messes with my sleep. So herbal tea is the go in the afternoon. And this one is really quite nice. It's very mild. It is not very pungent on your nose. It's just a nice little herbal tea. One of my other favorite teas from T2 is called New York Breakfast, and I have it in a loose leaf form. And what I've been trying to do on the weekends when I have a morning, just maybe I'm at home reading, or I'll just make a pot of tea and I'll just drink that as the morning goes on, and it's really, really lovely. That particular one has like maple syrup or cinnamon, and so it has this scent of pancakes to it almost, which is really lovely, but I drink it as a black tea. One of the other teas I'm hoping to get into this spring and summer is a little more jasmine tea, because when I was over in Japan, I had it a lot iced jasmine tea, which I really did like. So I'm hoping to maybe find the right sencha jasmine to be able to make my own iced green tea, jasmine tea this summer. Something else that's on my mind this spring is I want to be more analog with my data. I rely so much on the computer and my phone, and I'm really trying to wean myself off that to become more analog. Not only because I feel like it's a different part of your brain when you write something down as opposed to when you type something down. You seem to retain it a little bit more. Instead of using my notes app on my phone, I want to use a little diary or a journal. And so I found this particular one from a company in Melbourne called Studio Milligram. And it's just a little leather-bound folio, I guess, and it has 3 different journals in here, so you could use them for different things. I'm hoping to, so today, instead of using my computer for notes, I've got my notes here of what I wanted to talk about. Another one I would like to use maybe for my reading notes. Instead of using a reading journal on Storygraph, maybe write my notes in here, which makes it easier to review a book once I have finished it. There are things that I want to write down and remember. Maybe it's the tea that I'm drinking that I really love at this moment, or perhaps it is making a note about what is currently growing really well in my garden. I just want to make a note of that kind of stuff. And for that matter, this is my journal, which I got at the start of the year, and I have been using it, but I have been using it sporadically, and I want to be a better journaler. That is the Ange I want to be, is a journaler. What I've been doing lately is, instead of feeling like I have to sit down and write for 20 minutes about my day, I just keep this on my bedside table and I'll just write down a snippet of my day, like maybe a vignette that comes to mind. I think the other day I wrote down how nice it was to be greeted by a garden full of daffodils when I came home. Or the other day I was in the city and I saw a man high-five a statue. And it was just little things like that I might want to remember, vignettes. I'm being a little more forgiving with myself that it doesn't have to be a full page. I don't even have to do it every day if I don't feel like it. But I do want to journal because there is a certain amount of clarity that comes from it. And I do like being able to go back and see what happened on a particular day in the past and how do I remember it differently and how has that changed what I do in my life from there? So those are a couple of things that I'm doing this spring. Writing things down and drinking tea, that's a good little list in my book. I also wanted to mention that the Wainwright Prize for 2025 had been announced recently, and a book that I read over winter or in autumn called Raising Hare by Chloe Dalton won the Wainwright Prize for nature writing. And I do feel it was completely well deserved. That is a beautiful book of nature writing. I really enjoyed my time with it. I think in my video I did mention that there were some flaws with it, but it was a beautiful book to have read. I'm glad I read it. It totally deserved to win. And I really do like the Wainwright Prize. It's a UK-based prize, and it's a list that I've come across a few times when I've been looking for books that I wanted to read and I realised that it had been shortlisted for a prize. And they recently expanded their categories out, so they have prizes for nature writing, for conservation writing. They also have a number of prizes for children's books, which I think is a fantastic category. If you want to find a book that maybe helps a child understand the natural world and how what we do influences it, I think it's fantastic. And that is how I came across Kayla Baden, I think, who wrote October, which I'm currently reading, because last year she was shortlisted for one of the children's prizes for a book that was called Foxlight. I keep coming across books that are on this list, and I think it's a great list. If you're interested in nature writing or conservation, it's definitely one that you should have a look at. So let's get into my current reads. First of all, I have finished Beartown, and unfortunately it turned out the way I kind of thought it was going to. And all I could think about while I was reading Beartown was, I don't like this narrative, and all I could think of, I really should pick up Chanel Miller's Know My Name instead. I think that would be a better book. So I did. I just finished this morning. It was a 5-star read for me, and I will share more about it at the end of the month. I think my recommendation is, if you are reading Beartown, just put it down and read this book. This was an incredible book. I thoroughly enjoyed my time reading it. It was not an easy read at times, but having gone from the narrative in Beartown to this, I think this is a much better read about a patriarchal culture and how perpetrators are protected by not just society at times, but also the law at times. And I will share more about it once I've had a chance to digest my thoughts, because I just finished it today, and I'll share that in my month-end reading wrap-up. But that was fantastic. Another book I have on the go is The Crucible by Arthur Miller. I did finish The Hounding, and I thought, why not? I've always wanted to read The Crucible. I know the story only from movies. I am really enjoying this. It is a play. I'm finding it really fascinating to read. And throughout the book, Arthur Miller has the dialogue that is being spoken, but then he'll also take a break and give you context around a person or around a thing. So it does give you a little bit of a narrative in between that spoken dialogue, which is the script of the play. And then my spring read is Emma by Jane Austen, which I'm reading as a buddy read with a friend of mine. We are both fairly new to the books of Jane Austen, so we're reading it together, and it's a perfect spring read, I think. So those are the books that are currently on the go. Those are the ones that are active. I have a few others that I have just pushed to the side for now while I get through these, because I'm on a good run. September is feeling like one of the most productive reading months, and we're only halfway through, and I really love that feeling. So I am just going with my gut, whether it is seasonally led, or it's a book that I have read is leading me to another book. I am going with it, and I am thoroughly enjoying my time with it right now. So let me share with you a few books that I just bought recently. I went to a secondhand store with a friend of mine, the same friend I'm reading Emma with, and we went to a secondhand bookstore in the city, and it's very well known. It has it's just one of those books where you go in and you see what's on the shelves, but you know there's just boxes upon boxes in the back storeroom that are just waiting to be brought out. So I bought a pile of books, and I'll share them with you now. So the first book is Truman Capote's Music for Chameleons, which is a selection of writing. It's a selection of short stories, and it's broken into 3 pieces, 3 parts. The first one is Music for Chameleons, which is 6 stories. Then there's a non-fiction account of an American crime called Hand-Carved Coffins. And I don't think this is about the same murder that he wrote In Cold Blood about. I think this is a different one. And then the third section is called Conversational Portraits. And that was why I wanted to pick up this book, because there is a story in there called A Beautiful Child, which is about Marilyn Monroe. I haven't seen it on the bookshelves in any other stores. Not my favorite edition, but it'll do it for now. It is a little bit foxed. So we'll see how that goes, but it's something I've wanted to read for a while. I also saw Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. This is a book that I think is always at the top of many of the people I admire who are readers. This is at the top of their list of their favorite books of all time. And it is such a small little book. I think it is going to be a great book for in summer. So it says it's set in the bohemian world of 1950s Paris, and it's about a man named David, who's an American writer, who is casually introduced to a barman named Giovanni and agrees to stay overnight with him. One night lengthens into more than 3 months of covert passion in Giovanni's room. As he waits for his fiancée to arrive from Spain, David stares at the wallpaper decoration, at the man and woman on the wall who walk together among roses, idealising his planned marriage while tragically failing to see Giovanni's real love. I think it's going to be a beautiful read, and I'm holding on to this one for summer. I do believe it is a summer read. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it sounds like a summer love, a summer read. You don't always find the edition you're after in a secondhand store, but I did find this vintage classics of Where Angels Fear to Tread by E.M. Forster. I started reading E.M. Forster last summer, and it was A Room with a View, and I'm going to finish reading that this spring. I do think it is a spring read. And this is an edition that I think is so beautiful. I really do love these books with they've got these little arrows on the side. Just so matte, classic, tactile. There's something about it. They're really lovely. But this one is E.M. Forster's first novel, which is moving and wickedly funny. It memorably engages his signature themes, the collision of cultures and hypocrisy and snobbery of Edwardian England. E.M. Forster's just a novelist that I really want to read more of their writing. And from what I read of A Room with a View, I did enjoy the writing. I enjoy the society commentary, which I think is something that he often spoke of. So that's one of the reasons why I got this one. One that I have been looking for a while is James M. Cain's Double Indemnity. A couple of years ago, I read Mildred Pierce for the first time, even though I was very, very familiar with the story, having loved, I think it was HBO's production with Kate Winslet as Mildred Pierce. But the story, the book, was so well done, so well written. He's a writer that doesn't employ a lot of fluff around his words. He doesn't say too much, and I really appreciated that. He's known for his crime fiction, and Double Indemnity is one that I've really wanted to read. So it's a classic tale of an evil woman motivated by greed who corrupts a weak man motivated by lust. Walter Huff is an insurance investigator like any other until the day he meets the beautiful, dangerous Phyllis Nerdlinger and falls under her spell. Together they plot the perfect murder. So many of his books were turned into movies and this film noir category, and I think based on my experience with Mildred Pierce, I can understand it. So I was so thrilled to see this one on the bookshelf because I have not been able to find it, and the editions I've been finding online have been not great or very expensive, so it's not the best cover, but sometimes it's what's inside. Whenever I'm in a bookstore, I always gravitate towards nature writing, and Rachel Carson's Silent Spring is one of those books that's just been haunting me. It's, you know how you hear a book name and you're like, oh, that sounds like it might be up my alley, it might be interesting, but you just push it to the side. But then you continue to see that book over and over and over again. And that's what's happened here. Every time I've gone to a bookstore, I've seen it, I've picked it up, I've put it back, and I thought, fine, universe, I will take the message and I will read this one. This is a book that I really found hard to articulate in my mind as to what it was about. But my understanding is that this is one of the first books of the 20th century to talk about the effect of pesticides and chemicals on our environment. It says, despite condemnation in the press and heavy-handed attempts by the chemical industry to ban the book, Rachel Carson succeeded in creating a new public awareness of the environment, which led to changes in government policy and inspired the modern ecological movement. It was published in 1962, and I hope it's not too dry. I think that's why I hadn't picked it up. I was worried it was going to be too dry, too academic. And I really do think, though, that this is going to be one of those books that lights a fire under your seat. I think it will affect a lot of choices going forward. So I finally picked it up, and I most definitely will read that. And then I came across a couple that I had been looking for a while and hadn't found. The first is The Harp in the South by Ruth Park. And this is an incredible edition that was put out by Angus and Robertson. Angus and Robertson were one of the bookstores that you would go to all the time, and then they just kind of fizzled out. And I think you can still buy things online, but they don't have any physical bookstores to my knowledge, not in Perth. The Harp in the South is a book that is quintessentially an Australian classic. Set in Surrey Hills of the 1940s, Ruth Park's award-winning novel of Sydney slum life, while evocative of an era, still touches and concerns the reader 40 years on. Though the setting is a dingy one, the prevailing atmosphere of the book is not of grey dreariness, but of unquenchable life. Tragic, comic, sordid and beautiful. It is a crowded canvas with the figures strikingly contrasted, often grotesque, but always alive. The Harp in the South is told with uncompromising realism, but courage and laughter are its dominant notes. It is a revelation of the triumph of the human spirit over poverty and ugliness. I have a feeling that it could be a similar feeling to A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, where people are looking to find their place in where they have settled down and put roots. And Ruth Park, I'm sure she wrote a number of books after this one that might have been an ongoing series, but it is most definitely up there with other Australian classics like A.B. Facey's A Fortunate Life and Miles Franklin's My Brilliant Career. It is a classic that I have wanted to read for a long time to further my knowledge and education of Australian literature. So very pleased I got this, which is a beautiful edition. And then the find of the day was this beautiful edition of Bill Bryson's A Walk in the Woods. Another book I've wanted to read for a long time. I don't think I've read any Bill Bryson, but he brings a certain level of humour to his writing about so many different topics. But A Walk in the Woods is when he walks the Appalachian Trail in North America. At the age of 44, in the company of his friend, Bill Bryson sets off to hike through the vast tangled woods which have been frightening sensible people for 300 years. Ahead lay almost 2,200 miles of remote mountain wilderness filled with bears, moose, bobcats, rattlesnake, poisonous plants, disease-bearing ticks, the occasional chuckling murderer, and perhaps most alarming of all, people whose favourite pastime is discussing the relative merits of the Eternal Frame backpack. I think his view on the world is really interesting and ironic. So when I saw this edition, I could not help but pick it up. It is such a cute little one. So this will most definitely be a spring-summer read, perhaps late summer through into autumn. I'm overthinking it, but it is a book I am very pleased to have gotten my hands on. So that is everything from me. I got some great books, some really great books that I'm looking forward to reading, and they are books that are not too big as well, so I think I'll be able to tackle them sooner rather than later. It's always a little bit of a challenge when you buy books that are daunting or hold a lot of gravitas in the literature world. So I'm really pleased I got these ones, and it was a fun day out there doing a little bit of secondhand book shopping. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this little bookish chat catch up, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon. I would love to know if you have any thoughts about the books that I'm currently reading, or perhaps one of the books that I have just picked up. If there's one that you would say, go for it, read it sooner. I would love to hear your thoughts below. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will speak with you soon. Bye.